The metal clinked quietly in its wooden case, muffled by the felt lining, but still heavy with the memory of fire and blood. Isaac Williams ran his fingers over the inscription again. For valor. He had stopped counting how many times he'd read it, trying to remind himself that it meant something, that it had meant something. He was 38 now, back home in rural Georgia for 8 years after serving in Iraq, with memories he couldn't drown, medals that couldn't protect him, and a body that still woke up in the middle of the night, expecting the sound of mortars. That morning, he'd cleaned up real nice. Pressed shirt, jeans that didn't sag, boots that still shined a little. He even put on the old army jacket. Just like his mama taught him, look people in the eye and keep your back straight. The bar was nothing special. Lenny's place. Brick building, green awning, jukebox in the corner that hadn't worked in a decade. It was the only bar in town that hadn't changed since high school. Isaac hesitated on the front steps. He remembered coming here once, before the war. They served cheap beer, greasy wings, and if the bartender liked you, maybe a double pour. That was before. Now he stood outside the door like a stranger. When he walked in, conversation stopped. Not a dramatic movie-style hush, but a shift. A thinning of air. Eyes didn't meet his. They slid past him like water. He made his way to the bar, nodding slightly to the woman behind it. "Hey there, can I get a bud and a shot of wild turkey?" The bartender, maybe in her 50s, blonde hair tied up, red lipstick cracked at the corners, stared at him. "You from around here?" "Yeah, born and raised. Isaac Williams." She didn't blink. "Sorry, hun, we're full up." He looked behind him, empty stools. 2 guys playing darts. 1 old man nursing a Coke. Doesn't look full. She wiped the counter, not looking at him. "Private party tonight, members only." Didn't see a sign. Must have blown off. He let the silence stretch. "Look," he said, voice steady. "I used to come here back before the army. I fought in Iraq. Got discharged in 17. Bronze Star. Just looking for a drink. They just didn't want him at their bar. Bronze Star. 2 purple hearts. Just looking for a drink." She didn't move. I said, "We're full." He stood there for a moment longer. The jukebox, still broken, seemed louder in its silence. Then, softly, "Right." He turned and walked out. The sun hadn't moved much. Neither had his heartbeat. He sat on the curb outside, jacket heavy with memory, pride collapsing in on itself. A teenage boy on a bike rode past, headphones in, oblivious. A truck backfired down the road. Someone inside the bar laughed. It wasn't new. Not really. But it still found new ways to hurt. 8 years home. And this was still what he came back to. He took out the folded photo from his jacket pocket. Himself and his squad in the desert. Dusty smiles. Arms slung over shoulders. Brothers in every way that mattered. "I'd buy you a drink," he muttered. A pickup truck slowed near him. An old white man in a trucker hat leaned out. "You lost or something?" Isaac didn't answer. The truck rolled on. He tucked the photo away. No drink. No welcome. Just the Georgia sun beating down and a quiet reminder that medals didn't mean a damn thing to some people. Back at home, the house was quiet. Walls bare, fridge nearly empty. The VA checks barely covered bills, let alone groceries or gas. He didn't like to ask for help. Didn't like the way people looked at him when he did. The town said they were proud, said he was a hero. They just didn't want him at their bar. The day after the bar incident, Isaac sat in the parking lot of the County Workforce Center, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He'd filled out dozens of applications over the years. Security guard, warehouse loader, maintenance technician. He always checked the veteran box. It never seemed to matter. Inside, a young woman at the front desk barely looked up. "Name?" she asked. "Isaac Williams." She tapped at her keyboard. Her voice stayed flat. "Have you been convicted of a felony?" He blinked. "No." "Drug use?" "No." "Medical issues we should be aware of?" He hesitated. PTSD wasn't something he liked to write on forms. "No." She handed him a clipboard. "Fill this out." There were only 2 other people in the waiting room. One young white man, in a polo shirt, chewing gum and scrolling on his phone. Another was an older black woman, slouched in her seat like she'd been waiting for hours. Probably had. He took a seat, pen scratching across the page. Every line he filled out felt heavier than the last. Not just the ink, but the weight of constantly having to prove himself. By the time he was called back, the job counselor didn't shake his hand, didn't ask about his military service, didn't even look him in the eye. "You ever work forklifts?" "A little, in the Army. Not certified?" "No, sir." "Can't place you. Maybe try again next week." He left without saying a word. The receptionist didn't look up. Back in his truck, he sat in silence. The sun burned through the windshield. His Army jacket, still folded on the seat beside him, seemed like a joke now. On the way home, he stopped at a gas station. The clerk, white, maybe 19, rang up his bottled water, then looked at his shirt with the faded unit insignia. "You serve?" "Yeah." The kid nodded, chewing his lip. "That in Iraq?" "Yeah." The kid paused, looked at him a little longer. "My uncle did too. He died out there." Isaac nodded, gently. "Sorry to hear that." The clerk hesitated again, then quietly said, "Thanks for your service." Isaac gave him the smallest of smiles. "Appreciate that." That night, Isaac sat on his porch, smoking a cigarette he told his doctor he'd quit months ago. The town was quiet. Same trees, same porches, same stars. He heard a dog bark in the distance, a train horn miles away. He felt the memories creep in, uninvited. Camels walking past barbed wire, friends laughing in desert heat, the ringing after an IED. He pulled his jacket tighter. Across the street, a young white couple walked past and gave him a quick nod. The woman pulled her purse a little closer. They didn't speak. 2 days later, he got a letter from the VA. Benefits delayed due to backlog. Again. Isaac crumpled the letter without reading the rest. He already knew what it said. "We value your service," followed by nothing. He didn't tell his mother. She'd already lost sleep worrying. She still believed the country was better than this. She still believed in the uniform. By Friday, he was back at the park, sitting on a bench by the basketball court. Teenagers shouted and bounced balls across cracked pavement. Nobody paid him much mind. A boy about 12 wandered over. Big eyes, big shoes, curious look. "You a soldier?" "Was." "You kill anybody?" Isaac looked away. "What's your name?" "Tyrell." "You play ball?" Tyrell shrugged. "I try." Isaac pointed at the court. "Let's see." They played a few rounds. The boy wasn't bad. He was fast. Wild, but fast. Afterward, they sat catching their breath. "You got kids?" Tyrell asked. "No, just me." "You should coach. You'd be good at it." Isaac smiled faintly. "Thanks, kid." The sun began to set. Isaac stood up, stretched, and shook the boy's hand. "Stay out of trouble," he said. Tyrell grinned and jogged off. For the first time that week, Isaac felt something other than tired. He felt seen. Isaac woke before dawn, drenched in sweat. The dream had returned again. Fire, sand, screams. Who sat on the edge of his bed, head in hands, waiting for the memories to dissolve into the dark. By 6 a.m., he was on the road, driving aimlessly. He stopped at a diner he hadn't been to in years, the kind with plastic booths and burned coffee. As he walked in, the room fell quiet for a second. Then spoons clinked again. Eyes flicked toward his jacket, then away. He sat at the counter. A white waitress in her 60s approached. "Can I help you?" "Just coffee." She poured it. He noticed she didn't ask if he wanted anything else. A man 2 stools down, heavy-set, red ball cap, sleeves rolled, leaned over. "You Army?" "What'd you do over there?" Isaac stared into his coffee. "Same thing you'd do if someone shot at you." The man chuckled, but there was a thin edge to it. "Just askin'. No need to get uppity." Isaac didn't respond. The man muttered something under his breath, then got up and left. The waitress watched him go, then looked at Isaac, didn't say a word. That afternoon, Isaac went to the VA again. He sat through a mandatory PTSD group session. The room was beige. The chairs were hard. The air smelled like Lysol and old despair. A man across from him, black, maybe 50, talked about sleeping in his car. Said the shelters were full or didn't feel safe. A white Marine beside him stared at the floor, fists clenched. The counselor nodded, scribbled notes, and said, "Let's talk about breathing exercises." Isaac stood up. "This ain't working," he said. Heads turned. "I didn't risk my life to sit in a circle and breathe. That ain't help." The counselor raised a hand. "Isaac, you ever been shot at?" Silence. "Didn't think so." He walked out. Nobody followed. Later, he sat on the porch again. His mother came out with sweet tea and worry in her eyes. "You okay, baby?" "Just tired." She handed him the glass. "You want to talk about it?" He looked at her, at the gray in her hair, at the quiet strength she always carried. "You remember when I signed up?" "Of course. You told me the uniform would protect me, that I'd come back to a better life." She looked down. "I wanted to believe that. I did too." That night, Isaac sat at his kitchen table and wrote a letter. To the local paper. To the congressman. He wasn't sure yet, but the words poured out. He wrote about the bar, about the job office, about the silence in the VA waiting room, about the boy in the park. He didn't expect it to change anything, but he had to say it. He had to be heard. A week later, his letter was printed in the Sunday edition of the town newspaper. It was buried on page 7, but it was there. At the diner, an older black man nodded at him as he walked in. Nothing more, just a nod. At the gas station, the same white kid gave him a fist bump. "Read your letter," he said. "Real stuff." At the park, Tyrell ran up to him, holding a copy of the paper. "That you? You wrote this?" "Yeah, that's cool." Isaac wasn't fixed. The system wasn't fixed. But something was different. For once, the silence had cracked. The Monday after his letter was printed, Isaac sat alone in the park, unsure whether to feel proud or exposed. He watched parents play with their kids. A couple of old-timers played dominoes on a chipped table. Nobody said anything to him, but he noticed the looks, longer than before. Curious, careful. Then someone approached. White man, mid-40s, neatly dressed, blue polo tucked into khakis. Isaac tensed before the man even spoke. "You're Isaac Simmons, right? Depends who's asking." "I read your letter. You got guts. I served in Iraq myself. Different unit, different time. But I get it." Isaac nodded slowly. "Thanks." The man extended a hand. Isaac shook it. Firm grip. Eyes that didn't flinch. "We need more folks like you talking," the man said. "Truth makes people nervous. That's how you know it's working." That same day, Isaac found a letter in his mailbox. No return address. Inside was a printed photo of him in uniform, one clearly taken from public records, with the words "traitor" scribbled across it in red Sharpie. He stared at it a long time. Didn't tell his mother. Didn't tear it up either. He just slid it into a drawer and locked it shut. 3 days later, Isaac was summoned to the local VA office. Not a group session this time. A one-on-one follow-up, they said. When he arrived, a white administrator named Mr. Calloway greeted him with a smile too big for his face. "Mr. Simmons, come in, have a seat. Coffee? Water?" "I'm good." Calloway closed the door, sat across from him, folder on the desk. Isaac could see his own name on the tab. "So, I'll be honest. Your letter stirred up some noise. Got a few calls. Some donors weren't thrilled." "Not my problem," Isaac said. "Well, it could be. If this becomes a pattern, people upstairs start asking questions." Isaac leaned forward. "You want to take my benefits away for telling the truth?" "Nobody said that. But if it looks like you're trying to create unrest, that can make continued support difficult." Isaac stood. "Then I guess I'll make things real difficult." Later that week, a younger black vet named Devin knocked on Isaac's door. "Heard what you did," he said. "VA's been screwing me for months. They act like I'm a number." "You are," Isaac said. "We all are, unless we speak up." Devin looked down, then nodded. "I'm with you, man. Whatever you need." Word spread. Quietly at first. A whisper here, a nod there. Then louder. Vets from the neighborhood started meeting informally at the park. Isaac didn't call it organizing, but it looked like that. They talked about missed payments, bad counselors, the invisible wall between their service and their worth. One night, Devin stood up. "Let's do something. A march. Nothing crazy. Just show they can't ignore us." Isaac paused, thought about the red marker, the photo in the drawer. Then he nodded. The march happened on a Sunday. 20 people at first, then 30. By the time they reached the courthouse, there were nearly 100. All black or brown, all veterans. Some wore old fatigues. Some carried signs. "We served. We deserve better." From one war to another. They stood in silence. It was more powerful than shouting. The local news showed up. A camera, a mic. Someone tried to ask Isaac for a comment. He just looked into the lens and said, "This isn't about me. It's about all of us. Being invisible is a slow kind of death. We're just reminding folks we're still here." That night, his mother hugged him at the door, held him longer than usual. "Your daddy would be proud," she whispered. Isaac didn't say anything. He just let the warmth settle in. But change always comes with a price. The next day, someone spray-painted "ungrateful" on the side of his car. The VA stopped returning his calls. His part-time job at the warehouse cut his hours without explanation. And still, Isaac didn't flinch. Because now, when he walked into that old diner again, the waitress brought coffee without him asking. And this time, she added, "No charge for what you did." He sat down, took a sip, and let the silence fill the room. But it wasn't heavy this time. It was waiting. It was quiet for a while after the march. No calls, no interviews, no follow-ups, just silence. Isaac knew enough to be wary of quiet. It was rarely peace. Just the pause before someone tried to shut you up or wear you down. But something had changed. Not out there. Inside him. He walked differently now. Not proud exactly. Grounded. People still stared, but they didn't all look away when he met their eyes. And then, one morning, he woke to a letter from the city. Veteran Recognition Task Force. An invitation. He laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. But he went anyway. The meeting was held at City Hall. Long table, folded flags. 3 white men in suits. 1 black woman with tightly pulled locks, clipboard in hand. They asked him questions about equity, representation, community outreach. He answered honestly, which meant slowly and without trying to impress. They didn't all like that. When the meeting ended, one of them, the woman, followed him outside. "They want a poster," she said, "not a mirror." Isaac looked up at her, nodded once. Then they called the wrong guy. Weeks passed, then months. The group in the park kept meeting, now with printed flyers, organized sessions, coffee in thermoses. They called themselves Second Formation. Isaac didn't run it, but he was the reason it existed. One Saturday, Devin brought a camera crew, said it was for a documentary. Just a student project, he promised. Isaac sighed, but he sat down, talked, told the truth again. He said, "Most folks think the war ends when you come home. But for some of us, it's just when the fighting changes." The clip went viral, not all at once, but slowly. Then suddenly, someone posted it to Twitter. Then it hit TikTok. Then a local station ran a short feature. Then national news picked it up. Isaac's face on TV, his voice on the radio. The diner gave him a plaque. The mayor offered a photo op. Some senator tweeted his name with a flag emoji. His mother put all of it in a scrapbook. But Isaac just went back to the park, because under all the attention, nothing had changed. Vets were still waiting on checks, still being misdiagnosed, still being told their trauma wasn't service-connected. The applause didn't pay rent. It didn't cover therapy. It didn't heal anything. But it did wake some people up. One day, a teenage boy approached him, skinny, nervous, said his brother had served and wasn't right anymore. Isaac sat with him, asked questions, gave him a number to call. The kid looked at him like he was a lighthouse. That night, Isaac cried for the first time in years, and he kept going. Because he had to. Because if he didn't, who would? The war had taken a part of him, but it had left behind something too. A spine that wouldn't bend. A truth that wouldn't die. A purpose he never asked for, but now carried like a pack. Heavy, but his. Then one day, the same bar where it all began put up a sign. Veterans eat free every Friday. Isaac stood outside, stared at it for a long time. He didn't smile, didn't frown, and just walked in. Same counter, same stool, same waitress. She looked up. This time, she didn't freeze. "We've got fried catfish today," she said. "Good stuff." Isaac nodded. "Then I'll take that." And some peace and quiet. She poured his coffee. "You've earned it,"